So before starting this review, I just want to do a shout out to everyone who's subscribed to this channel ever since the beginning of this Zombie-thon. By the way, these are only the people who put their privacy settings on like the mode that I can see if they subscribed or not. So if you subscribed in October and I didn't say your name, it's not because I don't love you, it's just because your account settings are different. And if you have your real name as a subscriber, I'm just going to say your first name so I'm not a creep. But anyway, real reviews. Big Wowcha, Alexandru, Gustav, and the Cannabis Critics. Anyway, thank you so much for subscribing during this Zombie-thon. It's been a lot of work, but it's been a lot of fun as well. I'm trying to grow this channel as much as possible. My goal is to make more higher-end series stuff. But for that to happen, I need to at least get a few eyes on it. I don't want to spend so much time on something while I'm still small. So hopefully if the numbers rack up, I'll be able to do more high-end stuff. But for now, I think we're all enjoying a little Zombie-thon. We've come to Romero's last zombie movie, Survival of the Dead. I'm going to talk about the series in general at the end of this review. I'm going to focus the beginning of the review on Survival of the Dead. Survival of the Dead picks up right after Diary of the Dead, which is the first Romero movie to do that. Usually there's a little time that passes, the universe changes. Not in this situation. We have one character who's from Diary of the Dead appear in this movie. And a little part of me is a little disappointed because Diary of the Dead is my least favorite of the series. So to have a character come back from that movie rather than, say, Dawn of the Dead or Day of the Dead or even Land of the Dead was a little disappointing to me, but it is what it is. So Survival of the Dead, it follows that character from Diary of the Dead and his military commando. And they join forces with a fisherman and his crew so they can go on this remote island that's apparently not infested with zombies. But upon their arrival, there's a bit of an ethical dilemma. The people on the island don't want to kill the zombies. They prefer to have them caged up and tied up in the hopes of a vaccine, while others want to off them completely. And the whole movie is that ethical debate, basically, until things ram up in a climax. So people generally regard this as Romero's worst zombie movie. Look, when you stay with any franchise for too long, obviously your creative juices are going to run out. Look at, say, Christopher Nolan, what he did with Batman. Batman Begins, everyone loved. Dark Knight, everyone loved a lot. Then Dark Knight Rises, and okay, he started losing a few people. You can look at Bryan Singer in the X-Men movies, X-Men 1, X-Men 2, loved. X-Men Days of Future Past, loved as well. But then he did Apocalypse and started losing a few people. So there is such thing as sticking to a franchise for too long and that losing the attention of your audience. And it's normal because when you stay with a series for too long, you tend to rely on the same bag of tricks and the same tools instead of putting yourself in a situation where you have to kind of struggle a little bit. And I feel like that's what Romero has in this movie. However, I do think this is a better movie than Diary of the Dead. At least there's no shaky cam, and because there's that lack of shaky cam, I feel like George Romero is trying to compensate. There's beautiful sceneries in this movie. There's a nice autumn feel to it. And what I enjoyed about the movie is that it kind of feels a bit like a Western. You have people riding on horses, big wide shots, beautiful scenery, and you have fucking zombies thrown in there. So it's a bit of like a zombie Western. I thought that was interesting. I think that's definitely the biggest positive with the movie. It's just the overall feel, the music, the autumn vibe to it. There's a cute little scene as well I think I thought this scene was cute because I have a friend who's like a fisherman, and there's a scene where someone's fishing and zombies start attacking him. And I'm like, why are you fucking fishing in the middle of a zombie apocalypse? But you know what? That's something my good friend would do. So, yeah, that scene reminded me of my friend in particular.
Oh, I got a big one. Oh.
So those are the reasons why I think Survival of the Dead is overall better than Diary of the Dead. They scrapped the stupid shaky cam documentary style. The dialogue is much better. I actually liked the main fisherman in this movie. I thought he was a decent character. The movie just feels a bit empty. There's not much going on. There's not much substance to chew on. And though I think the ethical dilemma here is pretty interesting, it's not enough to sustain a whole movie, not a whole 90 minutes. That conflict which they have could have easily been a subplot to something greater. I get Romero wants to make a slower, more atmospheric zombie movie, unlike Land of the Dead and Diary of the Dead especially, which were more campy. But don't get me wrong, there are some campy scenes in this movie, and those campy scenes kind of took me out of the movie. For instance, there's a scene where one of the characters puts a fire extinguisher in a zombie's mouth and his head explodes. Little cartoony, didn't go with that whole Western vibe too well. And speaking of that Western vibe, it was present in the movie. I wish Romero would have leaned more into that style because it's such a unique idea, having like a zombie Western feel. I wish it embraced that a bit more. The CGI in this movie still doesn't work for me. I get it, it's pretty much the standard now in film to expect CGI blood, CGI guts, CGI gore. I'm not there yet. It's never gonna... I much prefer to see real blood and real blood squibs and stuff like that. So, unfortunately, it sucks because there's actually good movies out there and they still use digital blood squibs, and I'm usually like a dumbass. Like, I'll never spot CG in movies. When there's blood involved, I can tell, okay, that's CG. No, that's not CG. That's CG. I wish people stopped using CG blood. The way liquid moves, I don't think we're there yet in terms of technology. And especially because of the fact that most of these movies that use blood tend to be smaller budget movies. And the blood squibs work even less in those movies because of budget limitations. Some of the music in this movie as well was questionable. I didn't like how when there's a comedic scene, they'd put little whimsical music. That's one thing, it's just a pet peeve in movies. When there's like a comedic scene, there's like boom, 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 doo-doo-doo-dum, boom, boo-doo-doo-doo. Like, I get it. It's supposed to be a funny scene. You don't need the whimsical music. Aren't we funny? So overall, you know what? I was just happy this movie was a step up over Diary of the Dead. Oof, got a little dry drool. The fuck was it? Nah, it's not dry drool. It's just my mustache. It's getting too fucking long. Yeah, I was just happy the movie was better than Diary of the Dead. I would have hated to see a Romero'S zombie movie worse than that, and that's his last hurrah. And I get it. I wish he would have went out with a bang in this series, but it is what it is. Talking about the series as a whole, how would I rank these movies? Well, I made it completely obvious in this review that I would put Diary of the Dead at the bottom. I think the social commentary in that movie is very obvious. I don't like the characters. I don't like the shaky cam. The dialogue wasn't really good. Diary of the Dead is at the bottom. Above that, I'd put Survival of the Dead. Survival of the Dead, I don't think it is a good movie, but I think there are some redeeming things that make me at least happy that Romero didn't end on another Diary of the Dead. So Survival of the Dead would go above Diary of the Dead. Above Survival of the Dead, I'd put Land of the Dead. I think Land of the Dead had some cool ideas. Again, the social commentary is a bit too on the nose, but I liked John Leguizamo in that movie, and there are some great gore effects, and overall, the premise and the story I enjoyed. Above that, I would put the original, Night of the Living Dead. I think that movie still holds up today. If you're gonna watch it, I suggest watching the original one. Don't watch any colorized, remastered version. Just watch the original Night of the Living Dead. Still holds up. It might be cliche by today's standards, but that's because it's the first zombie movie. Quote unquote, the first zombie movie. So Night of the Living Dead. Above that, I would put Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead is a very fun movie. Very optimistic view of what a zombie apocalypse would look like. Great characters, smart decisions overall. And then above Dawn of the Dead, I would put Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead is the masterpiece. I think it's Romero's greatest movie. I think it's one of the greatest horror movies of all time. The social commentary, the tone of the movie, the gore effects, that climax at the end. Definitely not as fun and lighthearted as Dawn of the Dead or even Night of the Living Dead. It's a more dark approach to zombie movies and basically explores mental illness, the Vietnam War, PTSD. But I think Day of the Dead is Romero's masterpiece, and I'll always have it at the top of Romero's filmography. So there you have it. I ranked all the Romero movies. Let me know what your ranking would look like. I know probably most of you haven't seen Survival of the Dead or Diary of the Dead, but let me know how you would at least rank the original trilogy from Romero. So comment below, let me know.
Don't.
There's no way out.
Will one of you give me some more bullets for this gun?
We gotta get these things to learn to eat something other than us.